What's going on, guys? I'm John Hasselbauer with The Lines, and today we'll be going through the 2023 Sony Open. In this video, we will go through the brief course preview, a couple need-to-know stats before you go to the betting board, and lastly, who I have bet to win the 2023 Sony Open at Waialae Country Club. While I've got you here, make sure you hit subscribe on this YouTube channel for The Lines. 30,000 subscribers now and counting. Awesome place for you to look up any content you need outside of golf. There's also NFL, college basketball, NBA, anything that's topical this week. You can find it on this channel. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, comment, like, all that good stuff. And check out in the description of this YouTube video my tournament preview, which goes up every Sunday, for much more in-depth detail on this tournament than what you'll see here. Lastly, make sure you check out our Discord. You can get that as well in the description to this video. And we'll be talking golf bets every day as I place my bets. That's the best place to find them. Okay, so kicking it off to Waialae Country Club, that is the host of the Sony Open, has been for decades. I want to say 60 years and counting. We've been at Waialae for the Sony Open. For most players on the PGA Tour, this is the kickstart to the season. Anybody who did not win a tournament or qualify for the Tournament of Champions will be making their debut and probably their first start in a tournament since November of last year. So a lot of rust to shake off. Something really important to look at this week is how they've done in the past, because beyond just the course fit, just getting yourself ready to start the year at professional golf level again is not easy for everybody. Some people need a little tune-up round. Other people are ready to hit the ground running. So that's definitely, off the top. Maybe even more important than the course fit is just being prepared to start your year in January in paradise, really, because we are in Honolulu. About the course itself, it's 7,044 yards. It is Bermuda throughout. New this year, they actually grew out the rough a little bit more to 3 inches, usually about 2.25. So that's going to be important. This has always been a course that emphasizes driving accuracy, playing it from the fairway. If you look through the list of quotes of people who've played here, who've had success, they always say you got to be in the fairway. These are not the tightest fairways on the PGA Tour, but they are pretty firm. They do roll out. So anybody who has a repeatable fairway finder, you usually find those guys towards the top of the board by the end of the tournament. At 7,000 yards, it is one of the shortest courses on tour, and definitely a course that you're not going to overpower. Distance does not really help you here. However, something that I do look for when we get to the shorter courses, beyond just comp course history, is strokes gained off the tee on shorter courses. I feel like that's a really overlooked stat, but something that I've always leaned on for players who may not be the best drivers or the most accurate drivers when they always have to pull driver, but they are very well versed in hitting a hybrid off the tee or hitting a driving iron off the tee on repeat. There's a lot of players who, are not going to gain a ton of strokes with their driver. But if you can lay up off the tee to a different number, they tend to thrive. I think Patton Kizzire, not somebody that's on my betting card this week, but somebody who has won here and had success and been quoted as saying, "I love that I don't have to hit driver here. Taking that club out of my bag is a big benefit to my game." So definitely something to keep in mind as you approach your bets this week at the Sony Open. Some additional facts on the Sony Open. One of the easier scoring venues on tour in Waialae Country Club. 7 of the last 10 winners have reached 20 under or more. Last year, Hideki Matsuyama beat Russell Henley in a playoff, both reaching 23 under. Amazing finish by Hideki Matsuyama, a crushing blow to myself, who bet Russell Henley, and he was a popular bet last year. So some scar tissue there, but I think watching Colin Morikawa blow it last week made me feel a little bit better that I'm not the only one suffering from heartbreak on these outright. So we'll hope for better luck this year, whether it's Russell Henley or anybody else competing against the best in the world. Speaking of the best in the world, the best players in this week's field, I think there's a clear four of Tom Kim, Sungjae Im, Jordan Spieth, and Hideki Matsuyama, the defending champion. So as you consider your bets for this week, I think the first decision is, do you want exposure to that top group, or do you want to build out a wider card, more exposure to more of that mid-range? For me, it was a tough decision. I think with Tom Kim especially, that's going to be a polarizing topic this week. The 20-year-old prodigy already has 2 PGA Tour wins on short positional courses. On paper, you couldn't really draw up a better course fit than what we have at Waialae this week for Tom Kim, and I think the sports books are pretty savvy on that, making him already a 12-1 favorite in this tournament. Anyone who wants to bet him at that number, I totally understand it. It's close to a single bullet bet for me. If I'm betting somebody 12-1, so I personally chose to build out a wider card, but there's nothing you could say about Tom Kim, that you could really talk somebody off of him at this point. He's on fire. He should not have played that well on a giant, massive Bombers course like Kapalua, and he did anyway. He held his own against the best in the world, really. So he's an elite talent. He is to be taken seriously, and I think he'll be a popular bet even at 12-1 odds, but not somebody who made my betting card. So as we switch gears to betting strategy, what I'm looking for, we talked about strokes gained off the tee on shorter courses. I think just in general, comp course performance is huge whenever we get to a short course. So I'm looking at other short courses like a Port Royal, which has the Bermuda Championship on Bermuda greens, Harbor Town and Sea Island, also same thing, positional on Bermuda. I think those as well as Sedgefield Country Club are the 4 that I think make the most sense here. A little coastal exposure to the wind, short, positional on Bermuda greens, all things that this course has in common. But also looking at Pebble Beach, El Camaleon, and Colonial Country Club as well. Just positional courses where you're going to have yourself leaving the same sort of mid-iron, repeatable, same 150 to 175 yard shot, time and time again on repeat. If you can stay in the fairway, you're going to have some success. With that, I think strokes gained approach is paramount here. It always is, but specifically from the 125 to 200 range, long irons beyond 200 yards, not as important here. So just something to keep in mind. It's not a week I want to strictly look at strokes gained approach. I want to look at it weighted with proximity 125 to 200, since that is where about 2/3 of the shots are going to come from this week. And birdies are better again, I think, is the last thing. You're going to have to get past 20 under to win here. It has sometimes become somewhat of a putting contest. I do think a lot of putting contests are more on like second shot course setups where there isn't really much skill needed from tee to green, but I don't think that's the case here. I think definitely driving accuracy is a prerequisite, but if you're playing from the fairway, then it becomes a putting contest. So I'm looking for accurate players, specifically on comp short courses, who can make a lot of putts on Bermuda greens. And that is a perfect segue into my betting card, who this week I really lived in the mid-range of the board. I bet 4 players between 28 to 45 to 1. And shocker here, I'm starting my card with Russell Henley. I want to say he was 40 to 1 here last year. Obviously, heartbreak down the stretch. He had a 7-stroke lead. A little unfair to say he choked it because Hideki Matsuyama really just chased him down. I believe Henley shot even par on the back 9, and Matsuyama just went lights out with the crowd behind his side. There was a very strong Japanese contingent willing him on. And once we got to that playoff, we knew it was over. He had all the momentum. So maybe a little bit of a redemption arc for Russell Henley this week. For me personally, I absolved a lot of the animosity that I might have had towards Russell Henley for letting that one go last year, being on him at the Mayakoba Championship 2 starts ago in November. So we're back on good graces with Russell Henley. When you look at his player profile, it's actually eerily similar to Tom Kim's, if you can believe it or not. Kim and Henley both rank 1 and 2 in strokes gained approach and driving accuracy, which pretty straightforward, but that is step one and step two of this course. Russell Henley, long-term, a great Bermuda putter. He has hit a little bit of a schneid towards the end of last year, but we know when you get him back on Bermuda, that's when we can typically expect Henley to, catch his groove. And yeah, a little redemption, a little unfinished business maybe from last year, maybe a little bit extra confidence going into this year. He was a winner at this event in 2013, so we know he can close the door here. It's just been a lot of unconverted opportunities. Next, I have on my betting card Corey Connors, also 28-1, same number as Henley. As we look at course history over the last 5 years, it's actually Corey Connors who has the best. I think that's important not only for the course history itself, but also knowing the preparedness of going into a January event where not everybody is maybe fully in gear, kicking off the rust. Corey Connors seems to get up for this event every year. His last 3 trips to this event, he's finished 11th, 12th, and 3rd. So he's always kind of been in the mix. It makes sense on a positional course. He's super accurate, precise off the tee, flusher of his irons. He can hit it close. Obviously, the concern whenever you're betting Corey Connors is can he make some putts, especially in a putting contest. But similar to what we saw with Morikawa last week at the Century Tournament Champions, there's something about these greens that Corey Connors seems to like. He's never lost strokes putting at this event in his 4 prior appearances. So I like that upside on a player that we know from tee to green is going to be solid on this course. My next bet is Brian Harman, also at 28-1. He's been a popular bet this week. He's been as long as 40-1. I missed that. He's been as short as 18-1, which I think he's probably gravitated to now. Very under the radar, but closed his year last year with back-to-back runner-up finishes. And then looked very solid at the Century Tournament of Champions last week at a setup that really couldn't be any worse for his game. He's a positional guy, doesn't hit it very far, has always contended on the shorter, accurate courses like a Waialae Country Club. You look at his results here. His best finish was a T4 in 2018. He's been a little bit up and down, hasn't always come into this event with the best form, and the form could not be better than it is right now for Brian Harman. He's top 10 in strokes gained approach. He's number 1 in bogey avoidance. He's getting it done on easy courses, on tough courses. He's done everything but win. And at 28-1, I'm okay eating that price on a player that maybe the win equity hasn't been there for a while, but he is obviously trending a top 20, top 25 player in the world right now. So it seems like a pretty good value at 28-1 for me. The last player I'm going to talk about is Siwoo Kim. He was my spotlight player of the week, so you can look up more information on that in my tournament preview. Again, that's linked in the description here. But Siwoo is a perfect fit for this course from tee to green. He's number 1 in this field from proximity, 125 to 200. The only question with him, similar to Corey Connors, is the putter going to show up? And he made some necessary equipment changes starting at the President's Cup last year, switching to the broomstick style putter with the guidance of who better than Adam Scott, who's been sort of pioneering that broomstick putter for a long time. So I think that's interesting. He's had, over a month to figure it out in this off season, get used to a significant change like that. Aaron Wise recently is probably the most recent example of someone who went to the broomstick after having issues with the standard putter, and look at how he's sort of turned his career around contending in difficult conditions and easy ones alike. So I'm taking a little bit of a gamble here. It's 45-1 on Siwoo Kim. So I think that's a pretty long price for someone who's won 3 times in his career, all on Bermuda setups. If he has, in fact, improved the putting over this offseason, then I think he could go very low at this course, knowing that the rest of his game tee to green is pretty polished up. So those are my 4 outright bets for the Sony Open. I will have some additional props and first-round leaders, which will be in my Final Bets article going out on Wednesday. Until then, you can always catch up in the Discord or in my DMs on Twitter at PGA Tout. And that's going to do it for this video. Best of luck with your Sony Open bets.